Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul Definition, aka Deathstroke, and it's time to put a smile on that face with some amazing details that we have about Ben Affleck's cancelled Batman movie. The project was up in the air for a lot of time, and at one point Affleck pretty much became Schrodinger's bat, as we didn't know whether he was in or out. Now, DC of course settled on Robert Battinson taking over the cape and cowl, but with Ben returning for additional scenes in the Snyder Cut and upcoming Flash movie, I thought we'd take a look at the original outline and what we could have got. If you enjoyed the video, then please drop a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we do DC videos each and every week that you definitely don't want to miss. Anyway, the script itself had a lot of revisions, and we now know that things pretty much came to a stalemate with no one behind the project being 100% happy on the direction that things were going. We'll discuss someone who read this script that disagrees with this later in the video, but clearly there were a lot of issues. Affleck was originally supposed to direct the movie, but he stepped to the side to let Matt Reeves take over, and not long after, the two parted ways, with Reeves scrapping things and starting again to tell his own story in an offshoot continuity. All the way back in 2019, Robert Richardson, the film's cinematographer, confirmed that the script was finished, but not beloved by anyone. On MTV's Happy Sad Confused podcast, Richardson said he'd been hired to film the movie after he and Affleck worked together on his film Live by Night. Richardson said, "There was a lot to do, he was trying to change it, and then he made the decision, as you know, to go and do Gone Girl." According to Richardson, the movie was going to take Batman to Arkham Asylum, where he was going to dig into Bruce Wayne's insanity, and that this would be used to show the darker side of his personality. If you've read Batman Ego, then you'll know that book tackles the dichotomy of the Bruce Wayne and Batman persona, and the pair pretty much fight one another in order to take control of the character's body. Richardson stated that the work was going to delve deeply into the insanity aspects, and that the project would tackle questions like who was inside Batman, which one was the individual, and which elements of the character were sane and insane. The cinematographer said that upon entering Arkham, he would see an almost black mirror of everyone that he'd locked up, and how they were in some ways a reflection of him. Now this of course is steeped in several of Batman's villains. Like Bruce, the Joker had one bad day that changed him, but whereas Batman turned to the light, Joker turned to the dark. The Riddler has a genius level intellect, but rather than saving the city, he's chosen to terrorize it. Two-Face reflects the duality of Batman and Bruce Wayne, and how they are two sides of the same coin that seem like polar opposites. Penguin was born into a rich family, and though he had a traumatic childhood like Bruce, he instead chose to inflict the suffering that he'd felt on others. Pretty much all of Batman's villains in some ways are aspects of his personality, and we now know that Deathstroke was going to be the main foe that the character was going to be facing off against. Similar to Batman, he's a master in martial arts, and the pair facing off against each other would allow for some incredible action scenes. Joe Manganiello, whose name I've probably pronounced wrong, just don't tell a lad, he of course was playing the villain, and we do know that he actually shot some additional scenes recently for the Snyder Cut. The actor was already featured in the film for its post-credit scene, but apparently the dialogue that we originally had under Snyder's direction was a lot different. Whereas the theatrical cut set up the Legion of Doom, apparently the original version had Deathstroke teasing towards a solo Batman movie. Now Manganiello has came out in the last couple of days and discussed in a lot more depth exactly what was going on with the film. When going over the project, he said it was almost going to be like a David Fincher movie, most notably The Game. It's a film that you should definitely check out, but just in case you haven't seen it, the movie centers around a rich and lonely man that slowly sees his life torn apart by a mysterious organization as part of a game. I don't want to spoil it beyond that, as I think it's a movie that deserves to be seen with some surprises, but Batfleck's movie was apparently going to have a similar sort of aesthetic. According to the actor, Deathstroke was going to strategically tear Bruce's life apart, and slowly he would try and attempt to send him insane as he destroyed not only his business, but also his friendships and family. Joe stated, "It was a really dark story in which Deathstroke was like a shark or a horror movie villain that was dismantling Bruce's life from the inside out. It was this systemic thing. He killed everyone close to Bruce and destroyed his life to try and make him suffer because he felt that Bruce was responsible for something that happened to him. It was really cool, really dark, and really hard." That's what she said. No, but this sounds absolutely incredible, and I really hope that Alfred wasn't in the lineup of people that died. But who knows, you know, he's one of the only people that was close to Bruce, but hey, please don't kill him. It's also very similar to what we saw an alternate version of the character doing to the Green Arrow in the second season of that show, so there's definitely precedent here. Deathstroke has been known for doing this sort of thing throughout comic books, and if you've read Teen Titans The Judas Contract, you may remember that in that he attacked a lot of the members in their homes in order to dismantle them. When hearing Joe's comments, graphic novels like Daredevil Born Again by Frank Miller also spring to mind. Miller had the Kingpin discover Matt Murdock was the devil of Hell's Kitchen, and from behind the scenes he destroyed his relationships, his apartment, and made the character almost take his own life because he sunk to the very depths of his sanity. Both these stories are absolute classics, and you have to check them out even if you have a passing interest in the medium. Typically, when we think of comic book characters facing off against the forces of evil, we imagine them in costumes fighting on rooftops or at incredible expansive bases. However, what these books did is that they stripped away this idea and had the villains instead going after them personally rather than the persona that they put on. It was something that we hadn't really seen before, and let's be honest, if you were going to try and kill Batman, you wouldn't go after him when he's dressed up as the Dark Knight. You'd probably wait until he's in the queue at McDonald's or something, and then just walk up behind him, and boom, no more Batman. Though he does seem more like a KFC man himself, which, hey, the man's got good taste. So seeing Deathstroke go after Bruce rather than Batman would add another dimension to everything and definitely bring more aspects to the screen that we haven't seen before. Now, though we know that most people behind the scenes weren't too happy with this script, there's actually someone who read it and absolutely adored it. In 2018, Batman on Film put out a tweet saying that the issue with the film was that it didn't have a story that Affleck was passionate about. However, Jay Olivia, who you may know for his work on The Dark Knight Returns, fired back saying the following: "The original Affleck script was the best Batman script I've ever read. Ben had a kick-ass story, and I believe that the audiences and fans would have loved it." Now, there are rumours that Affleck will be returning for an HBO Max show down the line that could bring his story to the screen. Warner Bros. Seem enthusiastic about continuing Zack Snyder's continuity in some form or another, and at the weekend it was announced by Scott Snyder that he'd been asked to continue the story in comic book form, though he didn't have the time to do it. Now, what tends to happen with things like this is that the studio wait until the following project has been released and then the original script gets put out on the internet. What I mean by that is, it's likely that the studio will want to get Matt Reeves' version released so that people don't complain about it not being Affleck's, and then when the dust settles, we'll be able to see what was actually going to happen in it. I would have loved to have seen this narrative continued in some form or another, and I really hope that one day we get to see what we could have got in an alternate timeline. Affleck remains my favourite Batman, and I really hope that after The Flash we see him stick around for a couple more things. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie, and if you want to see Ben Affleck back for good. The comment section is yours! Do as you please! And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out our breakdown of everything we know so far about Spider-Man 3. We go over the ins and outs of the cast list, rumours, and what we want to see in the film. Don't forget we're giving away 3 copies of the Lord of the Rings 4K box set, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 30th of December, so make sure you get involved. If you want to support the channel and get to see content early, then please consider clicking the join button below. You can also come chat us on a Discord server linked in the description, or at Heavy Spoilers on Twitter. Thanks for making it until the end of the video, you've been the best, I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.